curiosity is key in so many different ways and so many facets of life. Everything from self to our interpersonal relationships to our understanding of the world at large. If you don't feed and fuel and encourage your curiosity, you're in for a world of hurt. And why do that to yourself when instead you could just learn to ask questions? First of all, hello, and welcome back to another video. I'm Ann Blackwood, your Silicon Valley Sage Sister, here to bring consciousness to the forefront of your daily life to make life a little kinder and simpler. So I want to get into these three areas where curiosity is so important. And the first one is in our interpersonal relationships, because in my experience, when fights occur, arguments happen, more often than not, it's because there's a misunderstanding that's occurring in the communication somewhere. And if that misunderstanding was to just be cleared up, there would be no argument. And this is where curiosity is so important, because being able to stop and ask yourself, what is this missing? What am I missing? What is this conversation missing that is creating this conflict? Because all too often I find that, my clients will tell me they were fighting over something and they came to realize that there was just like one little thing that they hadn't said that made their side so obvious that they couldn't even believe an argument was even happening. And it turned out that just wasn't communicated. And the moment that it was communicated, it was like, oh yeah, of course. We don't even need to be fighting over this anymore. All too often, misunderstandings create conflict. And when we can allow ourselves to just get a little curious, ask questions like, what to you makes this seem unreasonable? Or stop and ask yourself, what to me makes this seem so reasonable? And then make sure that those things are communicated, because we as human beings are pretty actually reasonable. We just have to communicate, and we just often don't communicate as clearly as we think we do. All too often I'll see clients that in the argument itself they'll jump to, oh, you don't understand me, or you never listen to me, when really they're not fully communicating. And it can be one little tiny thing. And by communicating that one little tiny thing, the whole conversation goes from like this huge disagreement to, oh, why didn't you just say so? That totally changes things. And this happens a lot in the world too, where all too often the things that we all disagree on, it's more often not that we disagree so much as that the whole picture hasn't been presented. So by being willing to be curious and ask questions about things, we can get the full picture. Like, over the last 2 years, there's been so much outrage over all sorts of things that are otherwise not outrageous or not even like two-sided if all the facts were presented. And that's not to say that none of them are, but, you know, because some people just have really, really strong opinions. But again, even then, usually it's not so much that anybody really disagrees, is that you think you disagree because the whole picture hasn't been presented. The whole conversation hasn't been hashed out for people to realize that they actually agree. And that it's these little bits of nuances that are often, again, misunderstandings that make them think they disagree. Being able to recognize that at any given moment we are being given little tiny snapshots of things, and how important it is to get the bigger picture before we decide anything, really can help us develop an inner peace. And I call it the unshakable peace that we build inside of us. Some people call it enlightenment. Some people call it being awake. I call it the unshakable peace, building the unshakable peace within us. And this goes for searching within us, and this goes for searching things outside of us. If you're just willing to get curious, ask some questions, do some studying, you know, inside as well as out, we find that things become more and more clear. And then all of a sudden we go, what was that big deal about? What was I so fussed or freaked out about? All of a sudden, simply because you've gone from having a little tiny bit of the picture to having the whole picture. And you know what gets you the whole picture? Questions. Questions get you the whole picture. Just the other day on Instagram, I did this whole little rant in my stories about this little meme. I'll try to show it here if I still have it, which I'm pretty sure I do. But it said, things aren't as they appear. And then on the bottom, it said, the deer isn't crossing the road is crossing the forest. And so I used this as an example of how perception is everything. And the way in which we gather a greater perspective is by asking questions. Being willing to look at something and recognize that you don't have the whole story. And if you did simply have the whole story, things would not just be more simple, but easier. Which I'm considering doing a video on the difference between simple and easy. Let me know if that would interest you in the comments. Because there is a difference between simple and easy. Although I don't know how long that video would be. So far I haven't done it because that seems like a statement. Maybe I'll do a short. We'll see. But yeah, you know, like it's basically this picture of a deer on a paved road that's running through an area of lots of foliage and trees. And its little baby is baby deer is struggling to stand, or has, you know, is its legs are collapsed. Why, I don't know. But recognizing that is important. And that was why I used this meme as an example at all, because the deer may be in the forest, but the deer is not part of the forest in that sense, depending on how you look at it. So this statement of the deer is not crossing the road is crossing the forest, that's making a whole lot of assumptions. And this is where we get in trouble, you know, to assume that the forest was there before the road. That is an assumption. To assume that the deer is technically part of the forest, that is an assumption. To assume that the deer crossed the road at all is an assumption. You know, that I said this in my Instagram stories, you know, the deer very well might have started to cross, the baby fell over, and so they got the baby back up and turned around and went the other direction. Like, we take these little tiny snapshots of things and make these huge assumptions. Make these huge assumptions. Why can't I say this? Make these huge assumptions out of these little tiny snapshots, and this is how we get ourselves in trouble. This is how we get ourselves in trouble. And the cure for this is curiosity. The cure for this is making curiosity so habitual in your life that your instinct, rather than to make assumptions, is to ask questions. The cure for this is making it so that rather than seeing something like that and going, oh, I know what's going on here, instead, make it a habit to be like, I don't know what's going on here, and I should learn more. That is the cure to so many things. So many things in this world. From our internal worlds, a feeling comes up. Rather than being like, oh, I understand this feeling and I'm going to let it run my life on autopilot. Stop yourself and be like, I feel a feeling. I should learn more. You're having a conversation with somebody about anything, whether it's an argument or not. Don't stop and just assume that you understand, because you probably don't, more than you realize. But instead of being like, oh yeah, totally, I know what you're talking about, be like, oh really? Tell me more. Ask questions. I'm thinking about doing a whole video on a conversation me and my significant other just had about why I listen to him talk about certain things and why I listen to people in general talk about certain things. Not because I'm necessarily interested in the thing they're talking about, but because I'm interested in them. And I thought that would be, sort of an interesting topic to explore in a video. But it is in my nature to ask questions to better understand, not necessarily because I want to understand what the person's talking about, but because I want to talk to them and I want to understand them. So in order to have the conversation at all, I have to better understand. I could just let it go in one ear and out the other and feign interest, but that's no fun for anybody, because then he feels bad because he's taking up my time talking at me about something that I don't care about, and I feel bad because I'm bored. But I've learned not to be bored in those moments, because I'm willing to be curious about anything and everything. And it's because I've recognized how very little I actually understand and how much I can learn from anything. Anything. And we get ourselves in trouble when we think we know. Whether it be with ourselves, the world around us, the people in our lives. The moment you stop learning because you've started telling yourself, well, I just know everything, so nothing needs to be explained to me because I know, you're going to be getting yourself in trouble a lot. A lot. And that's not to say that you can't, from time to time, express some knowledge, wisdom, and information. Just understand the difference between information, wisdom, and knowledge, because they are different. So yeah, that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. Curiosity. I know when we hear the word curiosity, the first thing we think of, most of us, is curiosity killed the cat. I don't like that one. I don't like that one at all, because honestly, I think that's been programmed into our psyches to get us not to be curious. Wonder why? I wonder why. So, please, if there's anything you do for yourself, first and foremost, because the way in which we change the world is by changing ourselves individually. That is how we help the world around us the most, is by helping ourselves first. So please, whatever you do, start finding ways to be more curious, to ask more questions about anything and everything you possibly can. Because I guarantee you, it will, as I say, make your life kinder and simpler. Truly. All right, guys, thank you for joining me for another video. Don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Don't forget to check out the links in the description. I don't know what's up with me right now. My mouth does not want to be. Yeah. But yeah, don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. Like button stuff, links in the description stuff. Yeah. And may the energies you serve you well. And let's keep making our way through.